an accusation. That is inconsistent with the American judicial system.
Opponents don't argue this may curb drunk driving, but fear this new program gives police too much power and doesn't address the real problem.
There's no component here that's going to take the driver and, for example, mandate the driver to deal with his alcoholism and driving problem.
Inevitably, this initiative will end up being challenged in court, but New York has major precedents on its side. In drug and prostitution cases, higher courts have ruled it is legal to take the property of someone who is accused and not yet convicted. Kristen Jeanette Myers, CBS News, New York.
Passengers aboard 2 Amtrak trains traveling between Chicago and Seattle are rolling again, hours behind schedule because of an unexpected stop in Havre, Montana. It was there that both trains were ordered stopped by the FBI and 300 passengers evacuated after Amtrak received a phone threat. A local sheriff says agents were looking for radioactive material. Nothing was discovered. Plans to tow a broken freighter off Oregon's coast and sink it in the deep Pacific are on hold. A special cable needed to haul the bow section off the beach is being flown in from the Netherlands. It is not expected to arrive until later today. More than 135,000 gallons of fuel oil remain on board the Japanese-owned ship after it was set on fire more than a week ago. In Japan, semiconductor giant NEC has announced massive job cuts, including 9,000 at home. With the unemployment picture bleak, a generation of young people is losing hope in the future. CBS's Barry Peterson reports.
In this winter of Japan's economic discontent, hundreds were expected at a special job fair for college students. Thousands came. Japan's gone from jobs for life to few jobs at all, and an unemployment rate now higher than America's. From semiconductors to sushi, company recruiters interviewed lots of people.
I think 100.
So out of 100, you may hire 2 or 3.
Yes.
Nissan is a good example of what's happening as profits evaporate. They're not firing, but they're also not hiring. 1,200 students got jobs last year, only 150 this year. And jobs open at ANA Airlines, 0.
I have to be optimistic.
20-year-old Kanai Hashimoto wants a job as an interpreter in a bleak market that has her friends scared.
Some people are very afraid that they won't find any job.
No job at all?
No job at all.
Job prospects are even more dismal for women. This book lists everybody who's interviewing in this room. And right at the very top, they can say just who they want. And a lot of them just want men, no women. Need apply.
Men.
Men only. Why?
Because our work is very hard.
Some students are praying or writing religious messages for jobs. But even divine intervention can't change the fact that for the young of Japan Inc., the future isn't what it used to be. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Tokyo.
And the news continues. You're watching CBS News Up to the Minute.
Man, the first time I looked at a picture of me, I was like, wow, Wayne, what happened? I was fat. I lost over 50 pounds on a Slim Fast plan. I finally found something that worked for me. It's easy. It tastes great. Once I lost the weight, my energy skyrocketed right through the roof. It makes you feel good after working out.
23 vitamins and minerals, protein, calcium, fiber, all the balanced nutrition like a healthy meal.
I look at life totally different now.
Slim Fast, every day. Balanced nutrition for a healthy life.
Anybody can do it if I can do it.
Nothing cleans household stains better than Clorox bleach. I just wish it were easier to use.
It is with Clorox Cleanup Spray. A household cleaning spray with a balanced formula of a special cleaner plus Clorox bleach. So you can remove stains and disinfect all over the kitchen, and in the bathroom, and in the kids' room, all over your house. Try Clorox Cleanup, the only household cleaner with Clorox bleach.
Ouch! You stop brushing with Sensodyne every day. Your dentist said Sensodyne every day helps take pain away.
Yeah, well, sometimes I feel like I married a dentist.
Sensodyne every day. Now for whiter teeth, use new Sensodyne Extra Whitening every day.
Chocolate milk? This isn't ordinary chocolate milk. It's rich chocolate Ovaltine. Compare the labels. It's got vitamins. Hershey's syrup has none. When it comes to nutrition, Ovaltine beats Hershey's syrup hands down. For us, it's rich chocolate Ovaltine.
More
Herbal medicine. It's all the rage, but doesn't cure what ails you. We've got the hits and misses of herbal remedies. Find out what's just hype and what can really help. Plus, town toughies, bruisers who like to use force and fear. Is your child a bully, or is there a neighborhood kid with a really bad attitude? What do you do to make a scary situation better?
This week
On This Morning.
He received the world's first hand transplant, but did he con his doctors?
Yeah, I was shocked.
Could one last con cost him his life? 48 hours tonight.
From behind bars in a federal prison, the man known as the Unabomber is writing letters, and he's angry. That anger is directed at a former neighbor who claims to have found Ted Kaczynski's hidden shack. Kaczynski has written 9 times to reporter Rick Salinger of our Denver station, KCNC-TV. This morning, Rick takes us to Montana to show us that shack and what was inside.
The beauty and remoteness of the Montana mountains was home to a hermit who was both a lover of nature and a notorious serial killer. His given name, Theodore John Kaczynski. The FBI called him the Unabomber. His letters have been frequent. The first began,
"Dear Mr. Salinger, I have no respect for most journalists."
But he continued that a former neighbor of his named Chris Waits was writing a book that angered him.
Waits has been making false claims.
I wrote back, promising to look into it. We came to Lincoln, Montana, where a few miles outside of town is where Ted Kaczynski lived, in this shack. It's now been removed. Not far away, in a home filled with books and a piano, lives Chris Waits. He told us shortly after Kaczynski's arrest, the FBI began searching his property.
I thought they're looking for something, and it has to be something big because they're not familiar with the country, and they're out hiking in these various gulches.
The FBI never considered Waits an accomplice, but did have an intense interest in his immense property, the kind of area in which Ted Kaczynski loved to wander. As remote as Ted Kaczynski's cabin was here in the mountains outside of Lincoln, Montana, he hated the encroachment of civilization. In his letters, he wrote me, he was tired of snowmobiles and what he called other disagreeable intrusions. And so, he said, beginning in 1975, he constructed a cabin deep in the forested hillsides.
I did have a hidden shack. After my arrest, the FBI somehow learned of the existence of my hidden shack, and for whatever reasons of their own, they wanted to find it.
This is a home videotape we obtained of the cabin Waits discovered. He spotted the structure hidden beneath the trees on a 60-degree slope.
And I was just elated. I says, this is what they've been looking for the whole time. I instantly knew.
In Kaczynski's letters to us, the secret cabin he described sounded a lot like the one Waits discovered.
For heating it, I had a stove that I improvised from the gas tank of an old junk truck and pieces of a stovepipe that I found near an abandoned mine.
But Kaczynski claims the cabin Waits showed the FBI wasn't the one. The location was wrong.
I'm not the least bit surprised. I would have been much more surprised if he would have said, gosh, Chris Waits found my cabin.
But what Waits found inside the cabin, he believes, is firm proof it was Kaczynski's, complete with evidence linking him to the crimes of the Unabomber. Rick Salinger for CBS News, Lincoln, Montana.
Tomorrow, the previously undisclosed journals of the Unabomber that detail a campaign of eco-terrorism where he used to live. The official figures are reassuring. Crime is down just about everywhere in the United States. But one statistic that keeps going up is the number of people serving time behind bars. It is those growing ranks at the heart of a controversy over parole. CBS's John Roberts has this update.
Were you ever arrested or in the criminal justice system?
Attorney Roland Acevedo understands better than most people what happens when you break the law.
1978, I was convicted of a felony. I went to prison, and I spent 4 years in prison.
Acevedo served 4 years for robbery before he was let out on parole. Less than 60 days into it, he committed another robbery and did 5 more years in prison. But a second shot at parole gave him incentive to clean up his act.
I knew I'd messed up. I wanted to get back to my family. I wanted to get my life back on track.
For Acevedo, getting his life back on track meant going to law school. A rare success story for the parole system,
Not really. National statistics show most parolees stay out of trouble. But when criminals who violate parole go bad, they can really go bad.
It started with the robbery and killing of a store owner here in Brownsville.
A rash of crimes committed by parolees throughout communities like New York City has prompted states to rethink the idea of letting nonviolent felons out early.
It's about time we abolished parole and took these predators off the street.
It does not make sense for us to release nonviolent felons from our state prison system after serving a mere fraction of their sentence, when we know the statistics bear it out that there is a 40 to 50% chance of them returning to our state prison system because they have committed a new crime.
Currently, 15 states have abolished parole or discretionary release for felons. Yet recently, 2 states, Colorado and Connecticut, flip-flopped on their position and reinstated parole, in part because of increased prison overcrowding and the inability to supervise offenders once they were released.
If you add more police, you have done nothing to deal with the problem of overcapacity.
Criminal justice professor Howard Abedinsky, a former New York City parole officer, says while parolees do commit their share of repeat crimes, eliminating parole puts the public at even greater risk.
There is no incentive to provide proper monitoring for people who are not released by the parole board because no one is held accountable for their release. The worst thing that you can do in terms of community protection is, in fact, to do away with parole release.
But tell that to Marty Sitzer. 6 years ago, she was brutally attacked in her home by a parolee named Ryan Randolph.
He was kicking me, threatening me, hitting me in the head, kicking me in the side.
Despite having 17 prior convictions, Randolph was released from prison on good behavior before he attacked Sitzer. He's now serving 6 to 12 years for that crime, but is up for parole again next month.
Giving parole, all that does is create another system by which means that you will never serve your full time. So what's the big deal if you do commit a crime?
Ah, there it is.
Roland Acevedo says he learned his lesson. He's back on track and taking care of his family.
If parole was eliminated with my case, I would have spent more time in prison. I would have came out twice as frustrated.
Marty Sitzer says while Acevedo's story is encouraging, there are plenty of other offenders who won't turn their lives around. And she hopes her attack will force lawmakers to think twice about parole.
I can't go to my grave and say, oh, poor little Marty, she was a victim. I'm not going to stop fighting. So that's probably what keeps me going day in and day out.
Even if Marty Sitzer's attacker isn't paroled next month, he'll still be out of prison in another 2 years, underscoring the point that society eventually has to deal with released criminals one way or the other. John Roberts, CBS News, New York.
In a moment, we'll take you to a place that doesn't want to deal with people. This is CBS News Up to the Minute.